Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us on a Friday live stream. And what a way to open, right? We hope you loved that trailer, and a massive thanks to Willoway for some incredible artwork to count us in. I'll be sharing that on social if you're looking for a desktop wallpaper. But yes, as you've seen either now or maybe a little earlier, yes, the Glacor Front is the second of 4 fronts that make up the Elder God Wars dungeon. And today we're going to dive into more details on what makes up the army, the general, the environment, and some first hints on the rewards that are going to wait in this next front. Joining us today to tell you more about this is an awesome lineup of JMods who brought this to life. So please welcome Mod Blackwitch, an environment artist on the Glacor Front.
Hello.
Mod Shogun, designer on the Glacor Front.
Hello.
And Mod Orion, also a designer on the Glacor Front.
Greetings.
Now, before we go any further, I think we should roll that awesome trailer one more time, so let's hit it. That trailer still gives me chills, and I had to get a dad joke in for Dad Osborne. Come on, if he's not here, I have to do it for him. Right, let's get stuck into this. So, as we talked about, second front has opened up in the Assault. You've seen a bunch of headlines there about what's going to be included. But just very quickly, for those of you who don't know, the Elder Gods are obviously sending their forces at the Cathedral of St. Iston to reclaim their eggs in order to hatch them. And if they do, all of Gillenlaw is going to be consumed in the process. We've had one front open up, now the second front is opening up, and things are very much escalating. So quickly to all of you on the team, can you briefly tell us from a narrative standpoint about this Glacor army and the Arch Glacor, as Glacor even, that people would have just seen. Darn it, it got me! I messed up already. Glacor,
Don't
everybody,
call it
not Glacor.
I feel like Shogun, you should take this one, pal.
Yeah, so the Glacors, I'm forced to say Glacors even though I don't like it.
I actually think that's
prefer
amazing, thank you.
The Glacors are inhabitants of Leng, and Wen has summoned them, but they're not her forces. She's simply using them as a means to get to the cathedral.
Mm-hmm.
And she's managed to summon the Glacor, which is a... Oh, I said it, sorry. It's a quite large Glacor, and it's threatening the cathedral. And so it's your job to aid the elves who will be going south to hold back the Glacor.
And not only the elves, but I also saw, and as you saw in that amazing artwork from Willoway, there's also some of the most powerful wizards in Gillenlaw kind of backing you up on this one, right?
Yes, so there will be 5 mages, well, 3 mages, 2 Mahajarat, and Athanadra, all helping you hold back some of the power of the Glacor. And that will play into the actual boss mechanics later on, so more on that later.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a tease for you, so we're really excited to talk about that. Now, we've talked a lot about how these 4 fronts, allow us to bring more variety and unique identity to each of the 4 corners of what makes up a God Wars dungeon traditionally. And we talked a lot about Nodon was kind of the more traditional approach, but elevated. So, Shogun and Ryan, can you kind of tell us, what do you think is the big differentiator for this front? What's the core theme at the heart of this content?
Okay, yeah, so I guess what you touched on there is pretty much spot on. We unlike previous God Wars dungeons, we've gone for like a different identity for every single front. And this one, the main focus of it was to be an introduction to PvM, the PvM experience, PvM gameplay, to be a stepping stone up from essentially being a complete noob and not knowing what like prayer flicking is and or how to shield swap and pop a defensive at the right time and all of that kind of thing. So we've taken the approach of, I guess, in a design scope, we called it like a tutorial boss. But that's not to say that it's easy. What it is something that has, obviously in the trailer you saw scalable difficulty. It's something that has options and triggers and levers for the players to pull and customize their boss experience. So if, for example, the full fight, can't say the word full without it being related to an elder god now. And the word when is even worse.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I hate when you do that.
the entire fight with all of the mechanics switched on, is essentially quite a broad test of the basic building blocks of what makes a PvM encounter and the skills that you'd expect to master. This is like an entry level experience that tests you on every single one of those. We'll cover the mechanics separately and discuss what we hoped to achieve with each mechanic. But essentially, the design and the kind of task set out to us was: can you make a ladder that allows players to kind of get on and off at the level that they wish, and improve their skills and not feel intimidated? Because I mean, you can laugh. A lot of players don't want to do PvM because it's too difficult. They don't want to do PvM because it's too, some people just play RuneScape to chill out, and they just want to skill and whatever. But we want to blur the lines a little bit between the types of persona that play the game. So this should hopefully, like Karapak did really well, to be honest, encourage people that don't necessarily do PvM as like a main core reason to log on, but kind of encourage them to step out of their comfort zone a little bit. That's the main thing.
Awesome.
So yeah, like obviously there's some really cool drops, and you saw in the trailer that there's tier 95 dual wield melee weapons, but it's not like they'll be easy to obtain. There is a hard mode to the encounter, and we'll talk more about that later as well.
Awesome. So yeah, the heart of this obviously is this scalable boss design. We're going to go into all that, and we're actually going to show you, I think, a bit more than we've ever done on a boss because of the way this thing works. It could be really exciting. Now, before we go into all that detail, we wanted to set the scene, right? What does this front look like? What's going on this front? So we're going to take you on a little bit of a tour with Mod Blackbush here about what the front looks like. Firstly, I think when you see it, oh my god, we've been talking about this for a while on stream about, can't wait for you to see it. Visually, it's a stunner. So Mod Blackbush, hello. I want to come to you first, obviously. As an environment artist, you had a huge role in bringing this thing to life. Now, the Glacor, as I saw, have a bit of a reputation of freezing the absolute hell out of everything around them. What does this mean for what we're about to see in the south of the city?
I mean, it was a very interesting challenge almost, because I worked on St. Destin when we first brought it out, and it's obviously a giant underground cave, so you don't really have wind or like weather or anything there in general. But when the Glacors come in, they bring all of this frost and all of the snow, and then a whole lot of destruction. So as soon as you go in there, I wanted it to be very clear that you're coming in a little bit late. Quite a bit of the destruction has already happened, and now the mages managed to calm it down a little bit. But part of the city has basically been collapsed by a big avalanche, and well, you see the big ice spikes over there already, and also these wounded elves who were in the fight earlier. But yeah, basically wanted it to look like from the Archglacior, as soon as he arrived, basically all of these ice spikes came out of him, and I wanted it to look epic and threatening, but also kind of beautiful and dangerous. I wanted it to feel kind of badass as soon as you walk in there, oh, I'm gonna go fight that thing on top of the aqueduct over there.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I think I speak for everyone watching when I say the vista of the Archglacior looming over the aqueduct. You know, we're going to see more of it there. You can see even the Archglacior kind of animating in the background. It's just absolutely stunning. How did it come to life? Was that something you envisioned very early in, as I want this front and center and kind of have this big epic kind of skyline, or how did it come to life?
I mean, very early on, someone in the concept team made this really nice painting which had a balcony with mages on it, and in the distance over the city you could see this big aqueduct with the Glacor on it. And as soon as I saw it, this was even before I knew I was going to make the environment for it, as soon as I saw it I was like, how cool would that be if we could do that in RuneScape, like that you can see that Glacor from as far away as possible. So then when I got put on the project, I was like, well, that's the first thing that we need to do. That's the focal point of the entire scene. Everything else is just kind of the build up to it. But yeah, I wanted the aqueduct and the Glacor that you see in the scene. I want those to be the actual ones that you go to fight on. Like, for example, the Colosseum of Garapek, I've seen people have looked into it with FreeCam. That's not the actual Colosseum that you fight in. There was some scale trickery going on there, but here, the one that you see is actually the one that you're going to fight. So yeah, we wanted to get him as big as we could possibly do it, because it just looks really cool.
It does.
And I think
like,
very early on we all had the same idea about that, to like get him hitting the aqueduct.
There was this little bit in development, wasn't there, where we mapped the Glacor down at the aqueduct, and we all looked at it and we all kind of went, should we make it bigger? And then obviously Black Witch took that to the extreme and pretty much maxed it out as big as it could get, with comfortably in camera distance. You will most likely be fighting this guy with max camera zoom. But yeah, and I think, what was the original percentage? You made it like 400% bigger or something stupid, and we were like, yeah, that works.
Yeah, I think it was something like that. It was a version had been made by character art by Mod JT, and then I just took that one, which already was a whole lot bigger than regular Glacors, and I scaled up like 7 or 10 times. So it just sits way better in the scene, and it works for the fight as well. So.
Now, one thing I want to touch on is one of my favourite personal things that we've done with environment art so far with the City of St. Istan is the battlements. And in the node on front, you kind of saw them come to life, and you saw the front started to come up, and you see the fight happening around you. It started to really feel like a last stand, like it's more than just you go out into the fight, but the fight is actually coming to you. Now that the fight's stretched across 2 fronts, how do we see that kind of reflected in the battle lines that we have on this front?
I mean, it's kind of one of the fun things of bringing this out one front at a time, is that we can constantly keep adding more soldiers out here. I put a front as well, obviously, put some barricades, put the elves, but then as well, it's quite subtle, but if you go into the city, if you go to the node on front, there's actually more wounded soldiers there now as well. The infirmary is growing a little bit, and we're only at the 2nd front, so during the rest of the Elder Godlord dungeon, it's constantly going to change. Like, there will actually be an impact on the city, and yeah, some like environmental storytelling of how the fights evolve, and just in general, it's not going too well.
Great stuff. Is there anything, before we go on to the army and the Slayer experience with Shogun, is there anything else you'd like to say, Black Witch, on the environment or anything like that?
Not immediately that I can think of, no.
Well, I think I speak for all of us when I say it looks amazing, and I think we all can't wait to be playing it in a couple weeks' time. So within that awesome setting, obviously, as we talked about, there's, as you'd expect from a God Wars dungeon, an army and a general. So, Mod Shogun, can you give us an idea of what the Glacor army is, what we'll be facing, and what's new?
So there will be the normal Glacors you remember from Ritual Mahadrat. Will be at the other end of the square, and at the front of the square is the smaller glacites. The smaller glacites are come in melee and major variety, hence the color difference between them. No, they're not enduring, don't worry. They will require 84 Slayer to defeat, so just go ham on them. They are quite weak, but there are a lot of them. Then as you progress through the square, you'll face the normal Glacors. Well, they're exactly the same as the ones from Ritual Mahadrat, so you can now fight them without the quest requirement of Ritual Mahadrat over in St. Istan. and they're gonna have some special drops called Glacor Remnants, which will be used to craft a abundance of items related to
so
the
they're actually
content.
Yeah, and we'll actually go into that in a little bit. They're going to have a relevance to the rewards as well, right? And obviously, for those people who have experienced the Node-on front, in the Node-on front, you can kind of team up with the God Wars generals and kind of like take some gifts from them to give you an ability or anything. Do we have anything like that in this front?
Yes, Hellboy will grant you a Nature's Fury ability, or Nature's Wrath, something like that. It will grow a mushroom, which will then explode after a slight delay, and dealing AoE damage around you.
That's done
Looks
enough
like a
damage
sound
to me
one.
in
It's quite
fights that.
handy in the area in front of you with the amount of glaciers floating about.
It's like a nice little free AoE, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, it's quite strong as well. So
Yeah, I've really enjoyed kind of comboing the abilities with my slaying on Nodon as well, so that'll be cool. And I've taken so much damage from those mushrooms in my time that I'm quite excited to use them on other people. Is there anything else before we go to what I know is the big kind of investment and the big piece of content for this front in the general? Is there anything else you'd like to say on the Glacor army or the Slayer experience or anything like that? Or has
I
that pretty
think
much
that
covered the bases?
Clue Scroll hunters will enjoy these new glaciers. Just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah. There was one question I saw in the chat for you as well, Shogun. It was about the old Glacor models. Do you want to talk about that
Yes, they have
as
been.
well?
Yeah, they've been fully reworked. Both the actual Glacor and his 3 minions. All animations been reworked. So even the
little
old ones
glaciers
over in the
really
Ritual
good.
Mire Cave has been reworked as well. So
Awesome.
Cool. All right, well, thanks for letting us know. So, okay, we're not going to keep you in any suspense any longer. And if you would, if we could start this, Mod Spears behind the virtual camera setting, kind of showing everything. Do you want to just roll over to the mages, just whilst we talk about this? So, the Arch Glacor, we've talked about this idea of a scalable boss. Mod Orion, can you kind of set this up? What does this mean? Like, what does scalable mean in this situation?
Yeah, sure thing. I mean, essentially, we decided to the two key words are scalable and customizable, right? And we want the boss to be a kind of pick your own difficulty, and each one of the 5 mages, and that's not counting Azanadra. He turns the hard mode on and off, but each one of the 5 mages, Karos, Ariane, Inakra, Akphanakos, and Arianwin. That was a little bit of a challenge. They all own a mechanic. So the story reason, the lore reason of them being there is they're all very powerful channelers or Shogun. What other words do we use for them? Like I guess Karos is more of a illusionist. That's the kind of thing.
yeah.
So they're all very powerful magicians, mages, wizards in some form, right? Ariane's a seer, etc. That each one of them has like sole responsibility for holding back one of the Arch Glacor's signature powers. And there are 5 signature powers, again, each one represented by a specific mechanic. So you would talk to, for example, Karos. If you weren't overly fond of one of the mechanics, or you specifically wanted to practice one of the mechanics, you could talk to the representative mage and switch it on or off, and that will customize the experience. And then we calculate the loot, the HP, the damage that the boss deals based on how many mechanics that you have active. So 0 mechanics is really, really easy. Really easy. Like I find AFK and KBD harder than this. Like this is just come in, give it a go, poke the Arch Glacor, because all of the mages have got your back. All of the mages are holding it back, like all of its power. So you just go in and do your thing, stab it a couple of times, see what happens. And then when you feel confident, you tell one of the mages, hey, you know, I'm going to try out the thing that you're blocking. And they were all like, okay, if you're sure. Yeah, they stop channeling. and then the Archglacior will do that mechanic in the fight, and it will loop through that mechanic. So every 30-40 seconds, you've chosen one mechanic to practice. You just get that mechanic over and over again. With 2 mechanics up, it splits between them. The way it doesn't go mechanic 1, mechanic 2, mechanic 1, mechanic 2. What it does is it ensures that it's done all mechanics that you've selected. Then it randomizes the list again and goes through again. So it's like when you kind of randomize your playlist on Spotify or other audio streaming services are available, and you just kind of do, okay, I want to try the one of the mechanics is called Frost Cannon, and it is so cool. Like, I was gonna swear. It's so really cool. Okay. And say you want to do that one and you want to fight the minions. Well, you'll get some minions, then you'll get a Frost Cannon, then you might get the Frost Cannon again, then there's some minions, and you can rinse repeat until the boss dies. And essentially, it's completely a tailor-made boss experience for you. So if you don't like one of the mechanics, switch it off, do the other 4. You get decent loot. I think the best kind of loot curve starts at 4 or 5 mechanics. So obviously, the whole goal of 0, 1, 2, 3 mechanics active is to kind of onboard you into the fight. You do get some rewards. It's not a waste of time. You get rewarded appropriately for the difficulty. But going up to 4 or 5 mechanics gives you better rewards, as you can imagine. Better rolls on everything, basically.
Awesome.
I hear
So
a question
I know.
coming.
Oh yeah, so let's talk about those mechanics. So we've got some to show. We weren't able to grab all because it is in development. We are showing it a little earlier, so apologies we haven't grabbed a couple of videos, but we will make sure we can show them as soon as we can. So there's 6 mechanics with 5 that can be toggled off, plus obviously the hard mode, which we'll talk about in a second. Let's start with Creeping Ice, which is so with each of these, if you want to tell us what it is, what it's designed to teach you, would be
sure.
great.
So this is like the basic mechanic. Now, this is less about teaching than it is about telegraphing. The Creepy Ice or Creeping Ice. So we in studio we call it Creepy Ice because it's like a pet name for it. But yeah, I'll continue to call it the Creeping Ice. The Creeping Ice essentially signifies that a mechanic is coming, and it positions you appropriately for the mechanic. So as you can tell, it denies you a certain area in the arena, like it limits the play space. So it can be slightly random. It's not always in that particular position in the video that you're showing now. It could be forcing you to one side, could be forcing you to the center, could be forcing you to the other side, etc. And we're not going to explain how to beat the boss. We're just going to show some of the mechanics. I just saw a question in the chat. So
and no hard mode stuff. So
no, hard mode has a couple of other little surprises and increase in difficulty and stuff. So we're not going to show any of that. But yeah, the Creeping Ice is just what we call mechanic 0. That's on for everything, and you can't toggle it off, as you said. Realistically, it teaches you to move out of the way of a dangerous thing. We're talking like we are dumbing down PvM to like the absolute new player level, okay, and building from there. We do get to more advanced things for sure, so don't worry about it being like not tailored for you or whatever. You can customize this boss to be really difficult if you want. So yeah, the Creepy Ice just kind of puts you in a certain position in the arena, and when you see the Creepy Ice, you know that a mechanic is coming and to prepare for it. You don't know what mechanic it is unless you start to maybe kind of recognize the patterns in the Creepy Ice. That's something that is doable but not 100% predictable. So this occurs, and then you can expect one of the other mechanics to come within 10 seconds, and that's it really. It's just a hey, get ready, something's coming.
All right, so let's go to the Glassite minions.
Shogun, do you want to talk about this one?
So the boss will, as you know, from the normal Glacors or Glacors, they like summoning minions, and this one isn't any different. It will summon 4 minions, 2 are melee and 2 are magic. While they're up, they will shield the Glacor from taking damage, so you kill them as fast as possible. When they die, though, you will get rewarded in a item which will damage the boss, so it's not really wasted damage per se. so the damage you do to the minions will be dealt to the boss as well. It's just a way of you to learn how to use your AoEs more properly. Maybe save that hurricane for that special moment. Yeah.
Cool. Anything else you want to say as well, Ryan, or is that cover that one?
Yeah, no, I mean Shogun pretty much covered it. The main thing is, you know, he touched on saving certain abilities and timing your more effective abilities based on, you know, the respective situation. This also teaches kind of target switching. Really, again, really basic stuff. You can sit and gloat that, you know, oh, I know how to target switch, I know how to move in the game, but there are people that don't like PvM because of these simple core building block mechanics seem a little bit overwhelming, or just you know, a little bit intimidating to combine it all at the same time. It's a lot to learn, a lot to take in. So again, we've really split it down into the basics, the absolute basics.
Great. And so let's go to the next mechanic. We don't have a video of this one, I apologize in advance, but it's flurry. Do you want to explain what flurry does?
Yeah, sure. So this mechanic is not overly like visually exciting anyway. What you can imagine is it attacks slightly faster, like 40% faster. The reason why flurry exists as a toggleable mechanic is that it switches up its attack styles. On the normal mode, you know, it'll go ranged, magic, range, and you have to swap your prayers appropriately. And Shogun came up with a good idea and kind of suggested that in order to reward the player for correctly prayer flicking, we would increase the prayer damage reduction if you pray against the right combat style. So it's a 15% extra increase. Is that right, Shogun? Yeah.
Yep.
So essentially, this one breaks down prayer flicking. You know, deflect magic, protect magic, whatever. Use them. Get this right. Only have this one on if you want to practice prayer flicking. That's the beauty of it. Is if you just want essentially a target dummy that deals mediocre damage to you, just put the one mechanic on and practice it and get better at it. Learn your key bindings. Muscle memory is huge, absolutely huge in any video game. And being able to do it without thinking is incredible. So you could, you know, for me, for example, I could literally just jump into this boss and do a warm up, you know, for 5 minutes before I go do Telos or whatever, or Karapak, and just, you know, practice my prayer flicking. Simple. That's what it's there for. It's just a practice.
Great. Okay, Pillars of Ice, next one.
Oh, this one's so cool. Okay.
Yeah, very.
Obviously, Creepy Ice kind of touches on basic movement and, you know, moving to a safe spot. Really simple stuff. But this is more like advanced movement, kiting, preparation. Essentially, he summons multiple beams of ice, pillars of ice, that follow you around at crawl speed. So we in RuneScape we have run, walk, and crawl is like half speed. Essentially, you move at half a game tile every tick, so you can see that one moving there. They move towards you. If you get in range of them, they damage you. They sap your prayer, something like 8%, 10% of your prayer every tick. So don't get hit by them. The whole purpose there is to kind of, you know, pick your path and maybe change your camera angle and avoid getting hit by them. Try and do some damage to the boss in the meantime. That's where the kind of skill ceiling starts to creep in. Sure, you can concentrate on just moving, but you're going to lose all your DPS. So try and think about small windows of like 3 or 4 cycles where you can quickly get in a couple of things and then carry on moving around. That's it, really. That's the Pillars of Ice.
Oh, Frost Cannon.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I'm so glad we get to show this now.
Basically,
it's so good.
Defensives are pretty huge in PvM. And when we said to the animators what kind of animation we wanted, we said, can he basically transform into a giant laser cannon, please? Thanks. and this is what we got back. And I am so proud of like what they accomplished, what we've got to use, because like this is so cool to be able to show to everyone. I mean, look at the poggies in the chat. It's just ridiculous. The whole purpose of this one is the more mechanics you have active, the more damage all of the abilities do, right? So, you know, you're increasing the complexity, but you're also increasing like throughput and damage intake, etc. Right? This thing on 3 or 4 mechanics active will one-shot you, and that's the point. You need to practice equipping a shield, popping resonance, or if you're lucky enough to have divert, sure. Even if you suck at that, then maybe try a barricade or something. Just survive. This teaches you to take a big hit, because I mean, the chat can probably name so many bosses where there are not insta-kill mechanics, but huge hits. Because there's a slight difference between an insta-kill, which is just unavoidable, and a really big hit. A really nice one is maybe like Seryu's breath attack, which usually hits for like 9k or something, and it's amazing to resonance for a free heal. You know, Ambi, Telos, everyone. Yeah, there you go. Giant mole. Yeah, good one. Yeah. Basically, the creeping ice forces you into a little corner. It could be in the center, could be left, could be right, whatever, and then the boss just unleashes all that coolness. Oh god. That's a terrible accidental pun.
Keep doing the accidental puns. It's good. We embrace them on the stream.
I refuse. After working on this for 3 months, I am done. Like, I am
just
done.
Chill out.
I just want to go on holiday to a warm place. Cool. The relationship between you and I is going to get rather cold if you carry on.
Oh, it's a frosty words you have there.
Just see how many puns you can get into this.
Yeah, cool. You should see the list of achievements that we designed for this boss. Holy crap. The puns are incredible. I think one of my favorites was a glaciate for Glacor eyes. Like, it's genius. I am basically a genius. Thank you very much. There were some really good ones from like Mod Stew and Mod Rowley as well. Yeah. That's enough of the puns.
So,
yeah.
Was that everything on Frost Cannon though, right? That was, I think it was.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, let's face it, it's a giant, awesome Frost Cannon. Don't die to it. That's the mechanic in a nutshell.
And then the final one, and it's a shame we can't show this, by the way. I have to say, it's almost great that you will see it probably in game for yourself in person, because I think the animation on this one is super awesome as well. It's called Exposed Core. Do you want to run through what that is?
Yes. In fact, I've kind of been talking for a little while. Shogun, would you want to explain it?
So basically, the power of a Glacor is the core of itself, right? It contains a very, very cold temperature, and it will unleash this on us. But first, it will trap us within his arms. So you're trapped right next to the core. You can't kill the core, and you will take more and more damage as the fight goes on. Well, as you stay close to the core. So you have 2 options. Either you die, or you try to break through the arms on the sides. So you have the arms will lock you in place, and you have to destroy them and escape from the core. But of course, since it's stacking damage, you only have a certain amount of time before you will succumb to the cold. So it's a way to tell you that how to burst DPS, how to maybe save the sunshine for it, and run away as quick as possible.
Awesome. And yeah, the animation when it happens is so cool. Like the core kind of just comes out, and it's almost like the Glacor's collapsing, right? Like its body becomes almost not animated anymore, and it just kind of slams down, right? Because you've taken the heart out,
I mean,
which is really cool.
That's actually kind of what we were going for, was that you can imagine the core of the Glacor, so the Glade core, was kind of like its brain or its heart, and when it kind of opens its rib cage and sends the core out, or the core sends itself out, the body kind of half collapses because it's not being controlled by the heart anymore. And obviously this heart is there unleashing tons of icy energy, kicking the crap out of you. You've got what did we time it at? Like 20 seconds in there is survivable, but you really want to get out of there in like 10. Is that about right? The damage just goes from like tickling to destroying you. Like it's like a really steep curve. Yeah, and also I love what the animators have done with the smashing the arms. So the whole purpose is like, okay, obviously it's a little bit of a spoiler, sorry, but it's really obvious when you get into the encounter. The only way to get out is to smash through these now targetable arms, right? And once you deal enough damage to them, like they just shatter and bits of ice fall off the aqueduct. That's so cool. They've done. I can't say the word cool anymore without cringing. But yeah, the animators, seriously, I think honestly the animation and the environment and well just the art in general, right? Character as well. I'm not going to forget those guys. They've just like we're just the idiots that plug it all in. Like it looks incredible. Like they've done like yeah, so good. You'll see more of that mechanic later.
It's all just come together really nicely. It all works together so well. Just like seeing all the animation as well being triggered occasionally from in the Slayer area, it's also just really good.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's one thing I will say is like we have had so many technical difficulties with this, like because we're trying to push the boundaries of what we can do, what NXT can do, what our environment like view render, render distance can do, etc. We've had to do a number of little workarounds to try and get this to work. Obviously, the exposed core, the reason why we're not showing it now is because of an animation technical glitch that we've been fixing this week. And the arms come down. What we have to do is like from a game development point of view and a scripting point of view, we have to make the arms on the Glacor boss go invisible and then add separate arm NPCs in exactly the same position at the same time, so the transition looks seamless. And like there's been so many like little tiny things that you look at and you're like, oh, that's not quite right. Put a bug in for it and fix it. And then yeah, it's been a journey. And I tell you now, I think we probably spent the most time on that mechanic, the exposed core mechanic, just because it's been a real interesting thing, like with a lot of moving parts and interlocking cogs. It's yeah. But yeah, it's definitely been an adventure, this project for sure.
Yeah, thanks for running us through it all. Obviously, it's unconventional for us. We don't usually show this sort of stuff. We're usually very guarded on mechanics, but because this is something that, as players, like has been designed to learn, we want to be very transparent on them. But when you go in, for your experienced PvMers out there, you throw the mechanics together, you maybe even go take on hard mode. That's all going to be the surprise and something we're going to leave completely for you to learn. So some key questions I know, and I've already seen in chat as well, that some people are going to have. So firstly, is there a hard mode? Obviously, we talked on that. And how does it differ from normal mode? And on top of that, how many players can fight the boss at once? Right.
Now, this is actually something that is quite significant, and we should spend a little bit of time talking about. Because
definitely.
In boss design and encounter design, there are some really touchy subjects. One of them is I've added a couple of like rubbish time gates to certain bosses in the past. Blackstone Dragon is the main offender, and the reason for that is because the time gate was supposed to have extra mechanics that were far more engaging and were more of a resource for the player, but we cut it and kept the time gating. It ended up being just run around and dodge the fire or run to a corner where the fire doesn't spawn, right? And that sucks, and I get that, no worries. But there is a very minor form of time gating in this boss, right? And I will explain it because I stand by this decision. When you are learning this boss and you are on 2 mechanics active or 3 mechanics active, an experienced player can literally just DPS that down and skip almost all of the mechanics. Like in the let's say the 2 mechanics active, the boss probably has around 140k HP, something like that. It's an estimate. It's not. Don't hold me to that. And 140k HP can be kind of like 10 cycled quite easily by the majority of decent PvMers, right? If they prepare properly. And I'm not saying that's the normal thing that we should be balancing around. We're not. Don't worry. However, because of the nature of this boss, it's not a normal boss. The idea of selecting 5 mechanics and then cheesing those 5 mechanics or cheesing 4 out of 5 of those mechanics, that's not cool. So what we've done is we're measuring two numbers. We're measuring the percentage of mechanics completed that you've actively selected, and we're measuring the percentage of the damage done to the boss, or in another way of speaking, the remaining HP of the boss, but inverted, right? And if those numbers are too far apart, your damage will be reduced. Now, it's only in normal mode, not in hard mode. Hard mode, you can do what you goddamn want. So those players who are going to be hitting those caps, doing loads of damage, won't be affected by the time gating at all. Not a problem, right? But we don't want you to be able to just have loads of DPS, switch on 5 mechanics, and skip 4 mechanics. That doesn't make any sense. If you are supposed to be rewarded for the challenge of selecting all 5 mechanics on normal mode, you are forced to engage with all of those mechanics. Understand? I think most people can agree that's how we should do things. What's the point in having all of the mechanics active and skipping 4 of them? Doesn't make any sense. However, we have been lenient. Okay, we have been lenient. You can, if you've got a very good DPS, probably skip like 2 of the mechanics. Okay, like the catch-up, the kind of catch-up defense that the boss gets only really kicks in if you're really far ahead. So don't worry too much. Okay, it's pretty chill. Oh my god. So I just wanted to explain that and get ahead of it, because I don't like needless time gating. Time gating is a tool that we can use appropriately and only appropriately. And I know I've done it inappropriately in the past. However, yeah, I just wanted to explain that. To answer the question about whether you can do it in a group, the boss is actually massable, okay? And you're thinking, what? Like, how on earth? But if you think, okay, it's massable and the damage reduction mechanic is in place, it's actually really exciting. If you are quite a few levels of DPS ahead, all damage received by the boss is reduced to like 1%. So you really, like, you can see a bunch of people running around having to do the mechanics instead of just going, the boss is dead, which is nice. And to be honest, I think even with all of the time gating and defense increases and stuff, I think people are still gonna just like decimate it. It's just gonna get blown apart anyway. If you bring 20 people, it's just probably gonna melt. Oh, for God's sake! Okay.
Okay, I'm starting to think you're a secret pun lover and you're trying to mask it with your oh god.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
not
you're
that
actually
good of
just
an
doing it on
actor.
purpose.
Yeah,
I'm not that good of an actor. I wish I was. It's hurting me inside. Okay, it's the realization. I wish I could ignore it, but I can't. Okay, but yes, it will. Yeah, you'll probably end up disintegrating it. But hard mode. Hard mode is unlockable. You can't just do hard mode. Okay. It's unlockable, and the way that you do it is to beat the boss with all 5 mechanics active solo. You cannot mass your way to unlocking hard mode. That makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. We don't want. It's a tutorial boss. Learn the boss. Don't just get boosted into hard mode and then go, I can't do it. Right? Just do the mechanics, learn the boss, unlock hard mode, do the hard mode. Great, cool. Literally, we wanted to design this boss so you guys can do whatever the hell you bloody want with it. So go and have fun. That's the point, right? Hard mode. Hard mode is interesting. Hard mode is not just hard mode. Hard mode has the Telos Enrage system. Hard mode is a separate boss in theory. You start from 0%, and it gets more HP. The ads get more HP. The arms get more HP. The boss does more damage. There's a couple of mechanical changes to each of the mechanics. There's obviously a Warden title, which is not called Warden, but we'll talk about more rewards and stuff later. There's world first announcements, and I'm sure that people will blitz through the first few 100%, and that's fine. Just have fun with it. We made it. Just go play with it. Like, whatever. Like, it's toggle it about, change it about, go get awesome loot. I don't know what to say. Like, you can mass it, you can solo it, you can hard mode it. Just play it and have a laugh. It's good.
Yeah, and I think that hits the because I know when we first talked about it, when it's a scalable difficulty. Wait, this is a tutorial boss. like, hang on, what? There's tier 95 rewards involved. That's where hard mode comes in, right? And as with
Yes.
Karapak, we're gating the tier 95 rewards behind hard mode, correct?
Yeah. Shogun, just to confirm, there isn't even a small chance, is there, of getting the tier 95 ingredient? Yeah, so
none.
it's hard mode only. And just
to confirm, it's
quickly,
solo only, correct?
Exactly, yeah, we're on the same wavelength. Solo only for hard mode, because doing enrages and stuff in a group, we did have a design for it, but dear God, no. The update would be delayed a month if we tried to implement that. So quite appropriately descoped that and kept hard mode solo only. Yeah.
And just to recap, in case someone missed it earlier, because I know we've had some people come in later, with normal mode is any number of the mechanics, right? And there's a scalable rewarding system behind the number of mechanics you want equals chances of getting good stuff. Is that correct?
Correct. And I don't think it's exactly technically exponential, but it's very close to being exponential.
Gotcha.
If you do it on 0 and 1, you'll get a couple of Glacor remnants and stuff like that just for your time, right? Or if you are a couple remnants away from crafting the thing that you want to craft and you just want to do it on a couple of mechanics, you can just get them, no problem. But as soon as you go up to kind of 4 or 5 mechanics, maxing out the normal mode, you get the appropriate rewards. But obviously we want people to be engaging with the content on 5 mechanics and hard mode. That's generally where we want the sweet spot for rewards to be.
Cool. And just before we go on to the rewards, what would you say to any players right now who have never touched PVM, kind of like me before my JVM journey, been waiting in the wings because bossing is scary, maybe even expensive, are intimidated by the sound of this? What would you say to those players who are watching today?
Well, so as an actor, is a very friendly guy. If you die during the normal mode of any of the 0 to 5 mechanics, he will give you a bit of a comment complaining how bad you are at PVM, but he will also teleport you out of the fight, saving you, so you don't actually die. So 0 to 5 mechanics is no deaths whatsoever.
Forever.
But if you act with hard mode, as you've not asked another to step away from the fight, which means he's not going to help you. So if you die in hard mode, yeah, you go to death's office.
So that's also safe deaths confirmed for normal mode. If you were scared of trying this, if the breakdown of mechanics alone weren't enough to entice you in, on top of that, there's literally risk-free, try, learn, get better, add more mechanics, combination different mechanics. You know, this is the time, right, Orion?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm already seeing the HCIMs in chat. It is completely safe for hardcore Iron Men to try out as well. He literally teleports you out. It's completely safe death. Obviously, make sure that you're on normal mode and that the hard mode thing on the interface is not ticked, because
yeah, that would be a fun.
Yeah, the only thing you'll have to deal with is as another just being disappointed in you.
Yes.
Really
He's
bad.
not angry. Very.
He's just disappointed. Actually, he's a little bit angry. One of the things we haven't shown, but you'll see in game. You know, it's not. We don't need to show it in the stream because it's not a huge reveal or anything. But you know, toggling all of these mechanics off, it's not a pain in the ass. Like, you can right-click each mage and say toggle, but you can also talk to them and have like the full dialogue version where they talk to you about it. Further than that, there is an actual interface that comes up whenever you're in the area. We call it the lobby or the balcony. Whenever you're in the mage lobby, the interface comes up and you can literally just click toggle whatever you want and then go into the fight. You get the appropriate messaging, you get the tooltips, everything's just really easy. I want that one, that one, that one, go in. So it's not annoying. Actually.
Yeah. Spear, would you be able to potentially quickly show that? I think, because that was one of the things that stood out to me, was how easy the UI was once you go into that area. If we're okay to show it, I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah.
To give people a quick
look.
Just
pop in when you. There you go.
Yeah, so you can see it up there.
Yeah. So if you click a couple of the mechanics, boom, Really simple, and then it keeps track of what your personal best is, and that obviously if you're on hard mode it changes to your best percentage. That's it. It's a really simple little mechanic, but the whole point is, you know, there are like 3 or 4 different ways to toggle the mechanics on and off, and they all update and they all keep in sync, so you can just choose what you want.
I don't know if you want to disclose this, but just before we get onto the rewards, chat is asking a lot of what the maximum rage is. Do you want to disclose that today?
It's a copy paste of the Telos system, so it's 4,000%. The Telos is slightly different in that it introduces several different key mechanics at certain milestone percentages. This is more of a Shattered Worlds kind of approach. See how far you can push it, right? You know, I joke saying copy paste. There's a lot of copy paste because obviously, but it is a custom. You know, it is a custom system, and decisions were made with regards to certain things. But there are changes to the core mechanics in hard mode, and I'm going to keep those a secret. They're just basically extensions of the obvious kind of power increases of those particular mechanics. You know, instead of 2 laser beams, there'll be like 3 laser beams, and blah blah blah. You can imagine it. I won't go too much into it. It's really tempting to, but I will shut up.
I'm going to ask one more question. Oh, you might be going to it. No, you go.
Ask it. All right.
Are you tele-blocked on hard mode?
I think yes. Yes, you are. We kept the tele-block in for Telos, and you should be tele-blocked for this. But I'll double check it. I'm going to say yes because the design is that yes, you are. Okay. But now that you've said that, I've gone, oh crap, it's been a while since we checked any of that, or at least I personally have.
So TBC, but yes, that's what we think it should be, right?
Yes, there is a streaking system. It's exactly the same as Telos in that regard. And the reason behind that is because Telos is one of our pinnacle bosses. If we're making a tutorial boss, we want to stretch it all the way from basic PvM to one of the hardest bosses in the game. And so the idea behind using the Telos system is to introduce players to that system early as well. Makes sense, right?
Cool. Okay, I'm conscious of time. Thank you, by the way, Blackwood Sugar and Orion, for all the detail you've been giving us. Like, I'm hoping you're enjoying every second. We're just going to touch on one last thing. So we want to tell you a little about the rewards. We're going to do a dedicated blog next week that's going to go into a lot of the detail, kind of similar to what we did for the Known Front, where we kind of did the trailer and everything. We're dropping a lot of information today, so we're just trying to not bombard it all in one and kind of let you all discuss this, and then we'll give you some more. But in terms of what we do want to talk about today, what do you want to tell people about the reward system and some of the kind of headliner rewards we're revealing today?
So basically, the normal glaze sites will drop Glacor remnants. You can use those as a crafting ingredient, but you will need more. So from the boss, you will get a Dark Nihilus. Together with a Dark Nihilus and your Glacor remnants, you can craft a tier 85 dual wield weapon, which is the weaker version of the tier 95. You can get your scripture of when that you can get from the same for Jazz from the Known Front. You'll be able to craft a cosmetic wing slot, and then as you progress into hard mode, you will be able to get the Frozen Core of Leng, which will let you upgrade your tier 85s into tier 95s. The tier 95s are think of as a pair. You don't want to be using them one by one. You want to be using both at the same time.
Look at those. Sorry, Shogun,
so
they've
cool.
changed the picture. All the attention's going to be on the weapons. All the attention's going to be on the weapons.
Awesome.
One of the jokes that I saw was, "Oh my god, ice weapons! How are we going to ice dye ice weapons?" Well, there you go. Look, we made sure they look different enough. Okay.
Icy. Yeah.
This is a
Ice,
massive shout
baby.
out to Mod Soften, who so we outsourced some of our assets, right? And it came back fine. The models look great, but she polished the hell out of these, and we won't obviously show the early version. But these new versions are sublime. Like, they are incredible, and I kind of can't wait to see if people want to wield like 2 of the same color, or if they want to mix and match, because some of them look like ridiculously cool. Can you imagine like wielding a blood and a shadow, like the purple and the red? Like, I can see some fashionscapes. Like, yeah, oh man, I really
awesome.
like the third age version. Normally we have like the white blade and the black handle, but we kind of decided to swap it about, and she's made like a real kind of a dark obsidian looking black blade instead, and it just looks, oh yeah, we've been raving about these internally. Like, we're like, yeah. Guys, there's lots of questions about special attacks and stuff. We'll talk more about that in the later stream, but I will say you won't be disappointed. Like, there's a spec, there's a passive, and there's a set bonus. All right, we'll talk about those later.
Yeah. And also, just to recap as well, because I'm sure some people kind of touched on it. So yes, what you can get tier 85 dual wield melee weapons from the normal mode, correct? That is something you can get from that system, and you can build on those with some things you're going to get from hard mode to turn them into tier 95. That's correct, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So even if you're not hard mode ready, there's some good rewards behind this thing, right?
Yeah, damn straight. Like, people are going to be wanting the supplies to make the base reagents, the base ingredients. People are going to be wanting them all the time. So even if you're not crafting the swords and stuff, like, in fact, Shogun, please jog my memory. Are the Glacor remnants tradable, or did we decide to craft and then trade? What was what we went for? Can you remember?
I think it was craft and trade, but
I think it was craft and trade.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we decided to craft and trade. I can't remember because we discussed about this so much that I actually can't remember what we finished on. Yeah. But either way, like, it's profit. It's profit. Like, no problem. Like, these are so goddamn cool.
And just as a top level as well, that it's a scalable reward system, right? So that's why we're using components and bringing things together. Is that's how you've kind of adapted the scalable system to work for everything from new bit layers to all the way at the top, right?
That's a really good point. Was that on the script? That's a really solid point to bring up. The reason why essentially the rewards don't just drop in one chunk is because exactly what you've said. Like, it's a really fidelitous scale of rewards. Okay, at zero mechanics, we might want to give you like 2% of the reward space of a 4 mechanic boss fight. And it scales upwards. And the reason, so like, I think this has all just been rebalanced by Shogun actually, but I think like the number of Glacor remnants that you need are in the order of magnitude of like 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 or whatever. You're expecting to get a lot of these things. And the reason why you need so many is, as we just said, you can divide bigger numbers into much, much smaller chunks. So zero mechanics can still have some drop, and 1 mechanic can still have a little bit more drop, and then 3, 4, 5 can be like, goes up and up and up. So yeah, like, I think it was a great idea. Shogun's done a good job with like kind of balancing the reward tree. There's multiple reasons for every player to want to get the base ingredient, even if you don't like the cosmetic, the ice. Just by the way, they're not actually like wings. They float behind you, and they're static, and they look so cool. So they are the crown of an arch Glacor, basically. Or actually, this one's an Glacor's crown, isn't it? Something like that. And they just kind of are they in the back slot, Shogun, or are they in the wing slot? I really can't remember. Yeah, they're going. So they work with a cape. Yeah, that's right. Which is obviously so much better. There are more rewards, okay? There are more rewards than the swords, and by rewards I mean equipment, okay? There's more equipment, but we will talk about that later.
Yeah, and just one thing I will confirm today as well, we mentioned there's a scripture of when, so there'll be another Elder God book, if you want to call it that. There will also be a continued evolution of the Pontifex Shadow Ring, correct? There will be another opportunity to upgrade that, right? So a lot of the things from the Elder God Wars dungeon, some of the themes that carry through that you'll see with each front are still going to be present here, so stay tuned for those. Right, I'm just going to quickly fire through some questions. Sorry, I'm just conscious of time. We've gathered up some questions from the chat. We won't be able to answer every question. Some of these questions will be things that you'll learn in the blog that we're whipping up about the rewards, give you a much deeper look at them than we could offer today in the time we have. Waz show, by the way, if we don't have an answer for any of these, we can always follow up on Reddit, etc., with any answers. So if we have anything we can't answer today, we'll make sure to let you know. Waz Joe asks, will there be another Slayer log with the Glacor Front?
Shogun, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we were doing a Sentistan Slayer log. Is that still the plan? Yeah.
Yes, correct.
So
it's a
not another one that
continuation
we're
of it.
adding to it. Yeah.
Yes.
Jim Bob 1357. It's Lee. I haven't seen that for a while. How will this affect Reaper assignments? I assume that means in terms of the fact that Arch Glacor has multiple mechanics that you can toggle on and off. Is there going to be a minimum bar or something for it to count as a Reaper?
It's a good question, but no, there's no minimum. It'll be an easy Reaper assignment if you choose.
Cool. Does Zero Mechanics still offer any lore books if you're not interested in drops?
Yes. There's one, I believe, and it will drop on Zero Mechanics.
There's a question about difficulty that we're not going to touch. We've told you about this before, chat. The one thing we're saying about the God Wars dungeon, and tell me if it applies to this, if I'm saying it incorrectly, but in general, the higher end of everything, it's kind of more difficult for this, it's a step up from God Wars Dungeon 2. Is that still the case here? Like it was for Dungeon?
Yes. Yeah. I
So
mean, at the end of
that's
the
as
day,
far as we're going on that.
This boss, it doesn't matter what we say, because you can make it as easy as KBD's
Yeah,
left
exactly.
leg, or you can make it as hard as, like, I don't know, 500% Telos or something ridiculous. I don't know. Basically you can choose the difficulty.
Easier.
So yeah, it's harder, it's easier, it's all of the things. Take your pick.
Mary Jestem has asked, what can you tell about the lore? Will there be a cutscene like there was for Nodon? Glacors don't have much going on for them lore-wise so far, so it'd be nice to get more background.
Yeah, there's a cutscene. It shows Leng, I think, for the first time ever, which is really cool. It even teaches you a little bit about Leng, not a lot, because there's only so much that we can even tell you about Leng. It's another planet. It's another plane of existence that is long, gone to the history. The cutscene is really cool. It lets you know more about the Glacors. It lets you know about how Wen feels about the Glacors. Shogun touched on this earlier. Wen is not a commander of the Glacors, but more like the catalyst that unleashes the Glacors upon Gielinor. Good idea or bad? You can decide. We think it's a very, very dangerous, very, very desperate move from an Elder God, but we'll see.
There's a question here about I assume they mean the Arch Glacor work for the Slayer task?
I think it's supposed to work for a Glacor Slayer task. I'm going to say yes. Some of these questions catch me by surprise because I've been so focused on other things that these kind of things were done like months ago. But the way we do it is we apply Slayer categories to certain bosses, and just like Rex Matriarchs has the dinosaur task on it, the Arch Glacor should have the Glacor task on it, so it should work. But I'll now write that down and double check that. Take that as a yes.
Rodzano's asking, is this a melee-based boss? I saw some people even saying, how can you even melee this thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's tougher to melee, I will say that. But the creeping ice is not as punishing to melee as you think. Like, there's usually like a nice buffer, like a nice area for you to remain in and melee. Absolutely guarantee this is more of a ranged and magic boss. Happy to admit that. Sometimes that happens.
This is, I think, a great question as well. Soccer Rock asks, is this fight always instance, or can you see people fighting it from far away on the aqueduct?
It's always instanced. We kind of messed around with it. But basically, okay, I'll let you into a little tech secret, okay? The the Glacor that you see on the aqueduct is not an NPC. It's magic. It's smoke and mirrors. Okay, it's a piece of environment that animates.
Don't give away all of our secrets.
Oh,
And the reason for that, yes, mod Black Witchcraft. The reason for that is that NXT's render distance for NPCs is half, a third, than it is for environment, which is I guess a legacy thing. I don't really know, but while we could have updated the engine and the client to have an NPC up there, it was far easier for us to create an environment location that animated like an NPC. Simple.
Yeah, and
Black Witch,
I don't think there's been a video.
Yeah, no, it was just the easiest way to get something very cool from as far away as possible. But like for the aqueduct and the Glacor, I forced the engine to make it as visible from almost the cathedral is the furthest that we can get, I think. Yeah, just actually from as far as it could possibly go.
We're maxing this shit out. All right.
We only have a couple of time for a couple more questions, so I'm going to quickly fire through these. Just to confirm, a couple of questions came in. Is hard mode massable? We confirmed earlier hard mode is solo only. Also, there's a question here around how many mechanics will get you kill count, and also can you get the pet at 0 mechanics?
Kill count for normal mode is completely achievable at 0 mechanics. So not to worry about that. Like I say, we're not putting so many restrictions on this boss. Just go play it. If you want kill count, go do it on 0 mechanics. It's fine, right? People get kill count from massing, so there's just go mass it on whatever and get your kill count. It's not a problem, okay? And can you get the pet from 0 mechanics? Was that the other one? Shogun. Yes. I think the answer is yes, but I think it's significantly rarer, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
Cool. And then there's one here as well. Are there any requirements to go face this boss? And if you can, is there a recommended minimum level you would say? I know that's always the hardest thing to pin down for something that has this many customizable elements, but
there's no hard requirements. Anything in Sentistan, we made Sentistan accessible by design. That was kind of lauded upon us from those above us to make sure Sentistan was accessible to the greater community. And the boss itself, so I mean realistically we've killed it easily on low number of mechanics with tier 60 gear, no problem. If you just want to get some polypore gear and jump in and try out some mage, do that. Realistically, a lot of people kind of have tier 70, tier 80 gear when they're starting off PVM these days anyway. That's absolutely fine. That's easy. You don't need unless you're going for super efficient, mega fast kills, absolutely using up as much of the instance timer as possible to squeeze out as many kills as possible. You don't need full tier 92 switches and stuff like that. It's a tutorial boss. It's supposed to be quite accessible. New players will hopefully go through the new player path and do some Slayer, etc. See the boss path. This boss is on the achievement path. It's really early in the list, so people are encouraged to just try it out. It's not that punishing. Yeah, give it a go.
Cool. And then one last thing, just I saw some, and it's a quick question. Is the boss dartable? Use your death touch darts.
Yeah, obviously it has the same restrictions. You don't get loot, you don't get kill count. Sorry, you do get loot, you don't get kill count. You don't get any enrage or streak or anything like that, I believe, in hard mode. You can double check that. But yeah, the same logic applies for death touch darts that you would imagine, essentially.
Brilliant. Well, there we have it. This has been a big old reveal of the Glacor Front. We hope we gave you a ton of detail. There's still not everything. We are going to detail the rewards in full in a blog next week, and it releases on August 31st, 2021. Yes, that is a Tuesday. It's intentional. You can blame the bank holiday here in the UK. So it is a Tuesday release, not a Monday. Plan accordingly if you're taking time off. Don't make that mistake. So as I said, next week we'll be dropping all the information on the rewards and how you earn them through this kind of scalable boss system. For now, we hope we've given you a ton to chew on. We hope you really enjoyed this reveal. Next week we won't actually be back for a stream. I'll actually offer a bit of a break, so we're also going to take a week off streaming. So next time you see us, we'll actually be here on release day, like we did for the Node on Front, to get stuck in with all of you. I cannot wait to get playing this and inevitably die on stream a whole bunch again. Until then, you can head over to RuneScape.com. Yeah, for free. Woo! Yeah, I lost like 5 mil to 5 Carapac deaths on stream, I think, and now I've got like 100 KC. So there you go. So one of those things. So yeah, you can head to RuneScape.com right now. We're about to post. It will appear any second. I'm sure the community team watching this are like, oh, post button, where we're going to have a big write-up of everything we've detailed today. And then we'll see you in-game on August 31st as the fight for Gillinor's survival continues. Black Witch, Orion, Shogun, thank you so much for joining us to drop so much detail. It's been a long one, but we really appreciate it. And to all of you, stay cool, Scapers. I hope you have a chill week, and we'll see you soon.